Hey guys, it's Luke, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to remember 26 digits of pi, or honestly any other number you might need to remember. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe and also check out my courses in the links in the description. Let's begin. When I was a little kid, my dad taught me a method for remembering really long numbers and other things as well, like words. It's a very interesting method, and because last week we had Pi Day, 3.14, March 14th, I want to teach you this method. I want to show you how it works. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to use it to remember other things like words as well. So let's get into it. So here we have 26 digits of pi. That's not too many. Pi goes on forever. And I'll bet if you really tried hard, you could remember this just as numbers. But some people remember 10,000 digits of pi, 20,000 digits of pi. Do you think they're remembering just the numbers? No, they're not. They're using this method that I'm going to show you. Now, this has been called the major memory system, and we're going to be using something that's close to it, but it's the one that my father taught me, which I think he kind of made up by himself. It's a variation of that. To really use this method, we need to understand that the human brain isn't really good at remembering numbers. Numbers are not that memorable. We can remember our phone numbers and maybe a couple other things, but it's not that easy. But if we want to remember something much longer, we need to use what our brains are good at remembering, right? So what we do is we change the numbers into words, and then we make stories with those words. And then when we need the numbers again, we just remember the story. We go through the story mentally, and then we pull out the numbers, and that makes it much easier. And then if you want to start using this basic idea to learn things like words, you can look up the memory palace, and sometimes it's called the mind palace technique. So let's talk about how we do this. So how do we change these 26 digits of pi into words that we can remember? Actually, it's not that hard. We need to represent every number as a letter or a set of letters. Now I'm going to use my own little system that I've made. It's a little bit different from the major memory system code, but you can use mine or that one or make your own. It doesn't matter as long as it works for you. But once you set the rules, once you make your code, never break it. Because if you break it sometimes, then you'll get the wrong number. You'll get confused and it will totally mess you up. So let's do this one number at a time. 1 equals T, because it looks like a 1 kind of. 2 equals N, because if I turn a 2 sideways, it looks like an N. 3 equals M or W, depending on what's useful. 4 equals H, right, because it looks like an H, right, looks like an H. 4 equals H. 5 equals S. 6 equals G. 7 equals L. 8 equals B, and 9 equals P, because it looks like a flipped 9. So I use what the letters look like, and that helps me. So now we've got our code, and I'm going to also say in my code, doubles don't count, doubles don't count. And that means if there is two letters together that are the same, I'm only going to count it once. That will help me make words. Okay, doubles do not count. And also I'm going to say and doesn't count. So that means if I use and in my story as a way to connect things, I'm not going to take out a number from the N or the D. I'm going to completely ignore it. And it's just a way to connect ideas or words together. Okay, now we need to make our story, right? We have to make our story. Okay, so what I've done is I've followed my code and I've changed all of the numbers into letters. And it doesn't make sense as letters. W, T, H, T, S, P, N, G, S, W, S, B, P, L, P, MNWBHGNGHMW. Okay, so once you do that, and that's the easy part, then you have to use your imagination, your creativity, and it should be different for everyone. So when you go through and then turn these letters into words, into a story, my suggestion is to make it very personal and very weird. If it's a very boring story in your mind, it's not going to be very memorable. But if strange things happen and you really focus on the description in your mind of the sounds and the smells, what things look like, and odd things are happening, then it's going to stick. And that's the key thing. So the next part is the hard part. This is the part that you really only have to do once if you do it right. Write these letters down and then try to make words with the letters. Try to make the words memorable. Create a story in your head. You can stop the video here and do it. The next thing I will show you is my little story that I'm going to make, and then you can see if yours is different from mine, it's very similar to mine. I would be very interested in knowing what your story is, so leave that in the comments. Also, remember, I've got M or W for 3. So if M doesn't work, I can flip it over and use W instead, and that can give me a little bit more flexibility. So go ahead, stop the video here, make your own, and then let's compare. Do you have yours? All right, so let's go over the one that I made. I switched a couple things around. I changed a couple of M's to W's, but this is what I've got, and I've really focused on trying to make my images very vivid, very memorable. So I'm going to sort of describe what I see in my mind as I go through this. With a teaspoon, so I imagine that someone is giving an order and their finger is pointed at someone else, at me, and they're giving me an order with a teaspoon. Now, a teaspoon is what I would use to stir tea, right? Or get sugar. With a teaspoon. Okay, I've got a teaspoon. Someone is shouting at me. I feel a little nervous, and I'm focusing on that image. Someone's finger pointed right at me, and me holding the teaspoon. Go ask for wasabi. Go ask for wasabi. Go ask. It's a command. So again, I feel kind of nervous, and I'm focusing on the picture of this person almost giving me an order that I can't say no to. What order? Ask for wasabi. Wasabi is what you eat with sushi, right? So now I need to picture myself with a little teaspoon walking to a place where there's this huge fat Japanese sumo wrestler, right? And he has a thing of wasabi in his hand, a tube of wasabi, and he's holding it here. And he's squeezing out little balls of wasabi from this tube, and it's making this sound every time he squeezes the tube of this green wasabi. And I imagine myself helplessly going over to this guy to ask for wasabi, okay? Now I imagine myself standing under the wasabi as this giant fat Japanese sumo wrestler squeezes it out, and the wasabi comes out of the tube and right beside my teaspoon. It misses my teaspoon and falls on the ground, and it makes a sound. Plop. That's an onomatopoeia. It's a sound we use when things fall on the ground. Plop. So I imagine the wasabi goes on the ground and makes that sound. Plop. So, very easy. With a teaspoon, go ask for wasabi from this big fat Japanese guy. Squeezes the wasabi out. Plop on the ground. So I've got my pictures very clearly in my mind. Now maybe this doesn't work for you, but it works for me, and I imagine it in order very clearly. Now, the wasabi falls on the ground, and there's a girl with red hair. A girl I went to high school with. Her name is Amber. Okay, so this works for me because I went to high school with Amber. And she's looking at the wasabi on the ground as though she's angry it fell on the ground. I should have moved the spoon, right? So she's angry that it fell on the ground, that it's wasted. And I just look at her, okay? Mean Amber. She was mean. She was always mean to everybody, right? Mean Amber. So in my mind, I can remember that. Her eyebrows are very, very mean. Her name is Amber. Hugging homework. Okay, so I just look at her and that's what she's doing. Because in my memory, Amber is a girl who is a very serious student. She wasn't nice to anybody, right? She had red hair and always angry eyebrows, so she's mean Amber. And because she was such a serious student, I can easily imagine her with huge papers, piles of paper in her arms, holding it very tightly. Some of the papers are crumpled up, some books in there, some pens in there. She's hugging her homework. That's how serious she is about school. Okay, so this story works for me. Now, if I've got the story very clearly and I've got the words that tell the story, that is going to stay with me forever. If you ask me in 5 years to tell you the first 26 digits of pi, I will be able to do it because I've got my story. Now, if this doesn't work for you, that's fine. Make your own, okay? But this is the basic idea. Code the numbers into letters, then code the letters into words, then make up a story that is very personal and a little bit weird. Okay, so let me see if it works. Let me see if I can actually remember the digits. Let's test it out. And then I'm going to tell you how you can use this basically to remember words as well. Okay, let's see if I can do this. I don't have a blindfold, but I'm going to hold this very tightly to my eyes. And I hope you guys trust that I really can't see. All right, here we go. So I'm going to go through the story. And as I go through it, we've just made it, right? I'm just going to say the numbers that come out. Okay, here we go. 3.14, 1, 5, 9, 2, 6, 5, 3, 5, 8, 9, 7, 9, 3, 2, 3, 8, 4, 6, 2, 6, 4, 3, 3. Did I get it?
You got it exactly right. You got it exactly right.
I hope I got it. I hope it's right. Anyway, I'm very interested in knowing what stories you guys made, and I am very interested in seeing if ours are totally different or similar. You got to use your creativity. Hopefully now you can impress your friends and say that you know 26 digits of pi. Now, I said I was going to teach you how to use this to learn words, so I will do that. Now, there are lots of different ways to do this one, but let's say you're trying to remember an English word that's a noun. Now, you might have a room in your home that's your noun room, or a street that you know well that's your noun street. And what you do is you imagine yourself moving in a straight line through that room or down that street. It has to be a single path that you can follow each time. The first time you go through it, as we did with these numbers, turning them into letters, you need to code these different stops along the way, these different locations along the way, with something interesting and memorable that links to the thing you're trying to remember, let's say the new word. So as a simple example, let's say you have a noun room in your house, okay? Maybe this is your noun house or whatever. And you're trying to remember the word. Let's just say the word is coffin. Coffin is a place where someone who has died will be placed in a coffin and put underground. Okay. Now, how do we remember this word? Well, you might use, if you know simpler English words, other English words that sound similar. And then you can create an image around those. Or maybe there's something in your native language, if you don't speak English natively, that you can use. It sounds like that. Something that reminds you of the word, you create a little action, a little event, something happens there. So as I'm walking along, I see a coffin there, but that's not the thing that makes me remember it, because that's what I'm trying to remember. Someone comes out of it. Usually it's a dead person in there, but someone comes out of it, and they're pale, and they have dark circles around their eyes, and it looks like they already died, and they're coughing very loudly. Coughing very loudly. You know the word cough. So then the word cough, because you know that word, helps you remember coffin because it sounds very similar. And you could change it, you could use a different way, but cough can help you remember that image of this person popping out of a coffin can help you remember that word. Because when you get there, you say, why is he coughing? Why is that person coughing? Yes, coffin, got it. Okay? And this is what you do for every word. Now, it's hard work at the beginning stage. Coding the memory, that's where the hard work happens. But then after you do it, it really sticks. So a lot of people find this to be a very effective way to remember, as we talked about, numbers, but also vocabulary words. I would really like to hear from you on this. Please share your experiences with this method in the comments. I want to see the little story you came up with to remember pi. And also, if you're using this way to remember words, I'd love to hear about your experiences. So leave a comment. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next time.